Hi, folks. Welcome to Coast Outdoors virtual podcast. This is episode 15. Today we have, I guess, a follow-up interview with Darren Porter, who resides in Windsor, Nova Scotia. We will be talking about fish passage and a whole pile of issues that they are enduring within the Windsor area. This podcast is open to viewer engagement, viewer comments, questions, etc. We will try to answer what we can throughout the show. So please feel free to engage. There's a lot of people I know that support Darren. I support what Darren is doing myself. Obviously, I'm the host of Coast to Coast Outdoors. I'm Jeff McNeil. So with that, I wanted to also add in a share screen here, which is going to give a little brief description before we get into further detail from Darren. So for those viewers, it's a 3-minute clip, so bear with me.
Darren Porter sits in his boat near the Windsor Causeway as a one-man protest, making a statement as the gates to the causeway are being kept shut, and he says fish are dying and have nowhere to go.
Last night, they turned the maintenance flow off, as they have last few days, which leaves the fish outside, stranded, either inside, like they did last week, or they kill them outside, like they did last week and this week. When you rob those fish of that oxygen, and you add that with heat, you have the proper storm for the death of fish. And when I say fish, I'm not talking about a couple, I'm talking about thousands.
In an email sent to Swinmer Media on behalf of the Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture and attributed to Minister Keith Colwell, Minister of Agriculture, it states, "Our department has been closely monitoring fish passage effectiveness at the Avon warm temperatures and low oxygen. However, DFO continues to examine the causes. It also states, in order to mitigate any further mortality, the NSDA, with agreement from DFO, began operations of the tidal gates to fill Lake Pisiquid to approximately 3 to 4 feet deep to mitigate the potential for fish to be trapped in these channels. The tidal gates will continue to be open during each of the incoming and outgoing tides to allow for fish passage. But Darren Porter says fish are still dying, and that needs to stop.
If you were a striped bass fisherman and you foul hooked a fish, you killed it by mistake, it was 26 inches instead of 26 3/4, they would fine you and have no problem doing it. But yet they can kill transfer truckloads of fish here on either side constantly for 50 years and nobody does nothing. That's a problem.
And as Darren Porter continues his fight for the fishes that he says are not receiving adequate passage and the Fisheries Act is being violated, he also says until changes are made, he will be out in his boat every night protesting the future of his fishes. And if you'd like to take a look at some of the videos that Darren's produced and some of the concerns that he's been voicing, you can find him on Facebook. Reporting in Waterville, Nova Scotia for Swinmer Media, I'm Ian Swinmer, and thanks for watching.
So, folks, that's just a brief video clip there Ian Swinnermer had done, which is great. It showcases what you are initially fighting for, Darren, and over, obviously. And for those that don't know a lot about the area, as myself, I don't know much entirely about it, but I followed you. I followed your videos online, Darren. Strand the fisherman, strand the fish. It's a hashtag that's it's been going on Twitter. It's been wide open. Welcome to the show again, Darren. It's a few episodes later, and we got you back, and it's a hot button issue, and we're going to talk about the issue at hand. I'm going to touch base with many questions. Viewer engagement is welcome as well. Darren, I'll be quite honest, Darren. The comments there, you're probably seeing them there. I know. I do apologize to the viewers. We had a glitch there with the media interview, obviously, but the sound come back. So with that, Darren, a lot of people support what you're doing there. You're trying to get things set back to, I guess, the way nature intended.
I'm trying to get the government to follow their own rules. So this is bigger than just fish. So they made it bigger than fish by challenging me. 20 years I've been at this, and I've been very, very easy to get along with this. Every once in a while, they'll kill so much that I'll come at them. And then this year, finally, they put out a new ministerial order because every other year we say, well, they always said that the protocols weren't enforceable. So they used a should instead of a shall, or a shall instead of a should, or something like that, the government said. So they didn't do their job, somebody in the past. So on the 14th of May, the DFO issued a really good ministerial order finally after 2 decades of me fighting this, and other people, not just me. And because I'm not alone here, I might be sitting in my boat alone. The only reason I'm sitting in that boat alone is your RCMP last week didn't want us to protest any more than 10 people 6 feet apart. And I had a bit of a problem with that, but I didn't have a bit of a problem with the RCMP because the officers that I was dealing with were good men, and I respect them, and I deal with them a fair bit. So I didn't really like what they said because everybody else is protesting around this country, and I do realize it's because I'm a big fisherman. You know what I mean? I'm a 300-pound fisherman, and I got a big mouth, and there's different rules for fishermen than there is for everybody else, which is what this is always still about. This is also about the fact that we're still socially acceptable. It's still society still can put us down. At one time, we were revered in this province. We're still the largest independent industry. We're still the largest exporter. Yet society it's okay to step on our heads and faces that we're treated differently under the Fisheries Act. Even though the Fisheries Act is supposed to be fair across the board, and the rules are supposed to apply, they don't apply to America the same way they do to me. They don't apply to a new turbine company the same way they do to me. They don't apply to the province the same way they do to me. Or if you're a politician, they don't apply the same way as you do to me. And for a lot of fishermen, this is going to be a big topic across this country because I'm not the only one that feels this way. Because every fisherman feels the way I feel, because we are treated different. DFO has no problem charging us. No problem charging a recreational fisherman. There's no problem with that. In fact, they're out there right now chasing around the indigenous fishery. So if you think about that, the indigenous fishery has rights, moderate livelihood, sparrow, marshal, and DFO officers are out there probably tonight chasing around Aboriginal fishermen. Whether you agree with it or not, it makes no difference. The fact of the matter is, they're out there chasing First Nations around tonight, and commercial and recreational fishermen. Yet I call them and I write them every day in Windsor when I have a violation. I take live feed videos, which there's many DFO people on my live feeds, and they monitor me steady. They're monitoring this show tonight. There's no doubt in my mind. People say, that's foolishness. Well, that's not foolishness. I mean, I get a phone call usually around 6 o'clock in the morning to see if I'm still out there, right? Or what's going on, or what are you going to do today, sort of idea. At the end of the day, we have a set of rules, and everybody else in industry and government runs by another set of rules. and it's discriminatory. In fact, if I wasn't white, it would be called racist. It fits the description. If you look up the dictionary, how they treat us in comparison to everybody, in comparison to industry such as Amera or
Mm-hmm.
province or another proponent, I guess they call them, not industry, a proponent. It literally fits racism right to the T, except for I'm not visually different. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
in the case of indigenous fishery, when they chase them down, when they're not chasing the mare down, it is racist. So if you want to go by definitions, I mean, they should be careful with this, because this can they're opening up in Windsor is far bigger than the Avon River,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's the thing here, because I'm going to rile every single fisherman up in this country. I'm going to rile them up, and I'm going to have everybody. I'm going to show everybody every day. I mean, I've been in that water about 21 hours a day. I have to come in to do my job, because I also monitor with First Nations. So up in the Upper Bay of Fundy, which you never hear about because nobody really talks about the good stuff anymore in the news and everything like that, is First Nations and our commercial fishery. Max, my dog, sorry. Anyways, First Nation in the commercial fishery, we work side by side. We're not fighting.
Mm-hmm.
We've resolved that problem, because the power of sitting side by side and working together is extremely beneficial to First Nations and the commercial fishery and the recreational fishery. There's very little advantage to working against each other. And if we ever unite as a province, which is my end goal, so by the time I die, I want to unite the fisheries. That's my goal. So I'm coming and I'm working on it. I'm leading by example. I work with First Nations on a constant basis. I work with recreational fishermen. I work with commercial fishermen. And I'll start in my small part of the world. We got the Federation now. Now we got 7 or 8 fisheries in it. And eventually I'm going to work down the coast. I'll work right around Nova Scotia to the best of my abilities. And I treat the clammers the same as the scallopers, the same as the lobster fishermen. I don't care how much money you make. If you're a clammer making $18,000, your hands and knees, I'll give you just as much respect as I'll give you if you have the best lobster license in Area 35. And that's the way it's got to happen, because we're all fishermen. We have to protect our industry, because they're trying to take it. Look, let's go straight down to the school systems. If you go to the school system, they give us kids a little test, say, what can you be when you grow up? Well, the only thing that's not there that I know of is a fisherman. I mean, they have a technician or some kind of technician, whatever, which ends up being somebody that digs ditches or whatever like that. But we don't even have a fisherman. And our province is so dependent upon the fisheries. We pay the salaries of these government people. We're the largest independent industry, and we're the largest exporter. Yet, right straight down to our school system, they don't even show us up in that school system. In fact, 2 days ago, I got a very disturbing message from a viewer of mine, where her son was doing a project, and they did on the value of the fishery, and the teacher was telling the son it's a dying industry, and it was basically being replaced, and they give the kid a real hard time, and then she made this little kid, go get proof that the fishery was important, and he come back with the fact that it was the largest industry and the largest exporter. But that's the mindset that our teachers have. My son come to me, my oldest son come to me 10 years ago when he went to school, and the teacher said to one of the students in the class, said, well, if you're not going to get an education, you may as well go work at the weir, right? Well, I owned the weir. So my son was sitting in the room, and this teacher said, if you're going to be a dummy, basically, go work at the weir down in Bramber. Well, I'm far from a dummy. I'm going to tell you something. I'm tired of being treated like this, and every other fisherman's tired of being treated like this. And I don't care what anybody says, like, oh, whatever. You know what? It's the fact that they treat us like this. And in Windsor, I'm showing everybody live and uncut every single day. Every single day. And what they don't get to see is I send official emails almost every day to the minister, citing the violations, recording the violations, reporting the violations, and asking for enforcement, and nobody comes. And I'm gathering evidence. I call them, I joke around, I call them AR-001, AR-002. I'm gathering what I call agents. I got my own police force. So I even have my mother. She's AR-002. You know what I mean? And she's running around today. She took pictures of lake levels all of Chester Road, man. I got I can't even tell you who they are because some people don't want anybody to know because they're, some of them might even be government officials for all we know, right? So I'm not telling, but I'll give my mom's number out.
They're always the best ones to
I
have.
am monitoring Amera on a daily basis. You understand me? I'm taking this into my own hands. I'm not like, Moses Cody, a famous Nova Scotian, right? I think he's from an Antigonist movement, but I think he was partly up in Cape Breton somewhere there too. Him and another priest back in the 1920s. I mean, he taught us 100 years ago, the fishermen and the farmers, to take our own destiny in our own hands. He put it in a paper called Master of Your Own Destiny, right? And I love Moses Cody's work. And he brought the fishermen together, made the co-ops, the credit unions, and eventually we've lost all that stuff, but within reason. We need to get it back. We need to take control back of our lives. DFO is not going to look after us. The province most certainly isn't going to look after us. And we have the power to do that, and that's what I'm showing people. So the province, until DFO lays charges on the province and enforces this, I will continue this, and I'll build this steam every single day. Now, I'll calm the steam down if they do the right thing. And I'll back off. We'll go back into the rooms, and we'll start talking with these projects. We'll make them better peacefully behind the scenes. But until the day they lay charges, right now, Section 34.2, I think it's G, right now with maintenance flows, I have day after day after day of evidence that everybody's seeing that is easily chargeable for DFO to lay on the Department of Agriculture. And they're not doing it. And that's the easy one. The other ones are a little bit more complicated, but that one there would be satisfactory to me. Now, I want them to get them in the future for more, but that one would be enough to send a message. We're not doing this no more. We're going to show the fishermen that we actually respect them enough to keep the productivity of their stocks up. Because in the Fisheries Act, the minister actually, it's her responsibility to increase the productivity. And she's not supposed to, she's supposed to take into effect, they're called factors, basically. And she's not supposed to look at cumulative effects and stuff. And she's not.
And you know what, Darren? There's a lot of fishermen, recreational and whatnot, that support you 100%, no doubt about it. I know. See, me and you were kind of on the same playing field here.
Yeah.
Because I think me and you discussed this before on the previous podcast, where I had to deal with Nova Scotia Power, Emira, at one point over a fish ladder that they owned. Now, case in point, it's a little. It has similarities, okay? So the similarities there are when we approach them, and you have to go through all these hoops to find somebody, the right person in that business to deal with the issue. And we were told time and time again, no, the fish ladder's not blocked. No, it's not this. No, it's not that. Long story short, a GoPro on a stick goes a long way for video, because as soon as we said we had video that it was blocked, and that we were going to go to the media, obviously with the issue at hand, there was a lot of apprehension then from said industry. Oh no, that's taboo. We don't want that in the media. Blah blah blah. We'll address it. Well, they did address it. They did fix the issue. In the days after, they put up an 8-foot fence, no trespassing signs, and everything to keep people out, just so things can't be reported for blockages. The funny, how I shouldn't say funny, but the mirror images of similarities are the fact that we too, with an organization that I was with in Cape Breton, went to DFO. We went to DFO enforcement, and we pretty much pleaded. We said, hey, there's a lot to this. If somebody owns a structure and it's blocked, enforce the friggin' rules. Unfortunately, guess what, Darren? We ended up in the same predicament that you're in there now, that the fish can't go migrate and spawn and whatnot, the whole 9 yards. So they thought that they were going to block us out. Unfortunately, louder voices do prevail. And there is some enforcement agents, I will say, from my personal dealings, that will speak up. But again, they're limited on what they can for repercussions, obviously. And I do respect them. But hindsight's 20/20. They speak up. Nobody wants to listen. It just takes one of them to say, hey, it's in the damn act. I'm going to put the charge out. What the Crown does from there, bang. Some of these enforcement officials have to enforce the act. Stop looking at these damn policies. I don't care if it's Nova Scotia agriculture or if it's fisheries provincially or if it's federally. They got to stop looking at policy. Policy is not written in stone law, which a lot of people forget when they work for government. They automatically drive policy. All these policy writers hate me because I call a spade a spade. Your policy isn't worth the paper it's written on unless it reflects a mirror image of the law. That is the law, unfortunately. A lot of people don't understand that you have the regulations,
Well,
then you have the act, then you have others that are law written in stone. Everybody wants to go ahead and accept policy. Well, policy is a guideline. It's a directive, but it's not law. So therefore, they have to enforce what is there, obviously. And there's a big disconnect there, even with the enforcement officials, people within the hierarchies of DFO, obviously, because they like to push their own agendas and their own narratives. And I must say, their wordsmiths are pretty good at bending the rules
yes.
on wording, and you know that as well as I do, Darren.
No,
And
yeah, well, that's exactly. See, but you said a whole bunch of things. I wish I could remember everything there, but the biggest thing is what people don't realize is DFO no longer manages the fisheries. See, I'm a little bit. I think you're ahead of me in like foy popping, and you're ahead of me in the technical stuff. But what I've realized, what's most dangerous to DFO about me, is that I understand them. I've studied them for years. That's just like I studied the Mi'kmaq, and the Mi'kmaq studied me, and I sat with one gentleman that's Mi'kmaq for, I'd say, 2,000 hours, easy. And I mean, I studied them wholeheartedly. I sat with the universities for years, and
Mhm.
they biggest compliment I ever got in my life was from the dean of biology when I was taking them on for tidal power, and when they got frustrated with me, and then they started liking me after a while. You know, after they got mad at me for years, is we grossly underestimated you. I have a gift of memory, so it's like my mind is. I can look at a piece of somebody's writing, and I can tell you what they're really saying, and I don't know. I just have this 3D gift where my mind's a bit different than everybody else's, where I can pull the real message of the piece of paper. I can sit in a room and listen, and I can retain it all. It's just a bit different. But anyways, what people haven't realized yet is DFO doesn't manage the fisheries. DFO manages fishermen, whether that be recreational, commercial, or Aboriginal. And the implications of that are huge because if you think about that, is especially with the First Nations, if they ever really figure this out, that DFO is just managing them, that's going to explode. When they actually realize the power they truly have that they're not really exercising yet, DFO and the government of Canada is really truly, going to have to do some backpedaling. But
Mhm.
most people just haven't really figured out yet that DFO doesn't manage the fisheries. And really, it's not that hard to figure out. They don't treat America the same as us. They don't treat Nova Scotia government and the Causeway the same as us. They don't treat TIR the same as us. And when they're a proponent for culverts and all this stuff every day, they give them little tiny pieces that they can fix at once and say, well, we don't want to make them fix too much and, whatever. But they don't. But at the same time, they don't give fishermen that chance. Well, there's two different sets of rules because they don't manage the fishery; they manage
Mhm.
fishermen, and I can't say that enough because it's the truth. And,
And
excuse me.
and I know I have a video or a photo here of an email, obviously, Darren, and means we're touching on that aspect. I think it's fitting that I open that up. Bear with me here 1 second. Continue talking while I open that up, Darren.
Yeah. So, like you said, something about America putting the fence up. So all they'll do to fix this problem is they'll make sure they remove me from Windsor. So
Mm-hmm.
the reason I chose to protest the way I did, I'm not alone. I'm far from alone, actually. But I chose to sit in my boat alone. I got my employees off the boat, my fellow workers off the boat, and I sat there in the rain. And I come in tonight because I had to sign papers for something I'm doing with due to this. And I had to do a few things like that. I need the doctor to check me. They just left before this because I'm going on a hunger strike right now. I'm sending a message. I'm turning the heat up on a daily basis, brother. So at the end of the day, I will not stop. So every day that the minister doesn't do her job, And every day they allow Nova Scotia Agriculture to continuously break that Fisheries Act in front of the faces of 20,000 viewers on my Facebook that tagged on some of them videos, right? There's 5,000 people or whatever close to that on my Facebook, or 4,000 or something. But then there's like 20,000 views on some of the things I did this week. That's in the face of everybody, because I don't actually tell the people how long the gates are open. I sit there every day when they open them for like.
You show them.
I show them, and I get them to count. See, it's ingenious, be honest with you, because I'm not telling them what's going on. They're telling me, but I'm showing them through the lens of my camera. So I'm getting them to count every day. I'm showing them the ministerial order. Then I walked away for 4 hours and I didn't say anything about it. So then they started reading it, studying it, and looking up section 34. They started looking up section 34A, B, C, D, and they started educating themselves, because that's what Moses Cody did. Moses Cody taught the fishermen and the farmers to burn their candle when they're done work at night. And it's your job to take care of, you're the master of your own destiny. And if you don't go home and you don't study and you don't learn after your job is done in the field or on the boat, you will always be a lamb. And I am no lamb, and I never will be.
So I'm going to run off that info there, Darren, that you see on the screen there. Fish mortality, May 28, 2020. On April 22nd, 2020, following discussions with DFO, the Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture began to operate the Avalon River Abattoir at full openings on outgoing tides and closed on the incoming tide to maximize fish passage on the Avalon
and
River.
that is true. That's a true statement. That's where the truth lies, right there. That's the protocols. So I gave you the protocols issued by the minister that they redid this year, and they're actually a darn fine piece of legislation, or not legislation. It's a damn fine order. So whoever crafted that order at DFO actually gave a shit. I'll say that.
And you know what? That's great to hear. On May 28, 2020, the Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture contacted DFO about an incident of fish mortality above the Highway 1 Avalon River Bridge.
All right,
Fish appeared to have become trapped.
Let me tell you about that.
Go ahead.
Now, that one's interesting, okay? So you have the Department of Agriculture that sits in a green box on the 101 reporting in Windsor, right? On the other side where they can't see. And the run up to that is what you should understand right here, is the run up to that fish kill. So on Sunday night, Monday morning, so I think it was Sunday night, I got it all wrote down. I was talking to Nova Scotia Power because I was trying to figure out what day we could get in to do the study, because they were drawing the lake down to maximize fish passage. They finally were putting in the most fish I've ever seen in my life this year. Now, it wasn't free flow of fish for the whole tide cycle. It was limited fish passage, but it was the best I've ever seen. And the DFO actually, after me fighting them 2 decades, finally did a good job. So then with this, I called Nova Scotia Power, and they said, "Well, I said we want to go monitor the lake on Wednesday, and we want to monitor the lake on Sunday. And we're going to be spilling water, because Nova Scotia Power above the causeway has a license that only 2 left exist. One is Wreck Cove up by you, and the other one is the Avon 1 and Avon 2 out to Chester Road. And they're 50-year-old licenses, and they're horrible. They're atrocious. They can literally turn the river off. They can actually turn the river off in their license. Basically, it's just a terrible license that should have been dealt with long ago, but it wasn't, and it's up in 2012. Actually, you guys should be watching Wreck Cove actually in your area. But anyway, so I talked to the operator, the guy in charge of all the operations, and he said, "Now, he goes, we're going to be generating on Tuesday until 4, and then basically they turn the river off, and Windsor won't get no water." Which is just screwed. I mean, you can't even believe this is possible in 2020 under our new Fisheries Act, honestly. But that's the way it is. Anyway, so I was like, okay. And he's going to run an Avon 1 a bit, he said, which is a smaller generator or whatever. They can run it a different whatever. So I don't know how that, whatever. He's going to run no flow, basically, because a very rich person in our community wanted to put a wharf in. And Nova Scotia Power, NSDA requested that he hold back the water. So on the 14th of June, when the ministerial order that you have in your possession there stated that the protocols will be done unless within reason, it says they're going to be done, the politicians wanted to fill the lake so they could see the water in the lake. So the NSDA requested Nova Scotia Power hold back that water. And I'm like, Tim, which is sort of the guy's name. I said, listen, I said, we have a large fish run coming through right now. It's the first quarter moon. We're seeing them in our study in the river. They're stacking up. It was our catch per it's called QPUE, catch per unit effort, was 400 fish in 80 feet of net an hour. That's huge catch. You know, that's massive amounts of gas per pound up outside them gates. So anyways, I said, you know, and it's going to be 28, 30 degrees, the forecast. I said, you're going to kill them fish. And that was 3 days before the fish kill. And he goes, yeah, I'm concerned. He said, I'm concerned, right? And I'm like, okay. So then I wrote DFO Monday morning. And I wrote DFO and I said, why are you allowing them to hold this water back? You know, basically, right? Why are you allowing this? I mean, these fish are going to get killed. So I called this fish kill, this great big first one inside. So you got to remember, NSDA asked them to hold the water back. And then NSDA is now reporting this fish kill. They knew they were going to kill the fish too. They knew that they were going to die. 28 degrees. We did a temperature. So the Mi'kmaq took the temperature outside the causeway. It was 20 degrees that day. That was really warm outside in the salt water. That was super warm in Windsor. Inside, 26 degrees an hour and a half after that kill. Then we called DFO, and of course DFO wouldn't come and survey that kill. And that's a tactic they use all the time. So if they don't come actually write the kill down, they won't take a secondary source. And they actually stated that to the First Nations, believe it or not, to a First Nation representative, they actually stated that we can't take your account or your evidence of that kill with secondary whatever. So it had to be an officer do it under certain protocols. Yet they wouldn't show up. And now then they blame COVID for not showing up. Yet they're out there chasing Elver, First Nation Elver fishermen. I'm not saying I don't agree with that fishery. I don't agree with that fishery. But at the same time, they're out there chasing down rights holders, yet they won't show up to count the dead fish in Windsor. But there's a reason they don't show up, is my point, I guess, is that literally, if they don't show up, there is no official record of this death. And nobody can ever argue how many fish were killed. And that is a constant tactic by our government. Now, with a fisherman, we have to record all of our death. But America doesn't have to record all of its death. Legally, it does. But they're old. If you even go into the when they were fighting over the Fisheries Act and they took all the proponents up there, the National Energy Board used Jay Wamsley, her name was, from Mara, and she's now retired. And I consider her my worthiest adversary of all time in a room. She's a brilliant woman, ruthless when it comes to fish, but brilliant. Anyways, you can go in there and it's right in the public record that she says we find it, National Energy Board, onerous or whatever they call that word, to count these fish. In other words, it's too laborious for them to go count these fish. We don't want to count them. The real reason they don't want to count them is because if they don't ever write them down,
it never happened.
Because a fish is not real in the government unless it's on paper and a computer. So to a fisherman, a fish is real when it's in our hands. But to the government, it's real when it's on paper. In fact, most DFO people have never seen fish. And that's hard to believe, but it's true. And they're making something they don't even know what it looks like.
And you know what, Darren? Like, I'll continue on touching on this this document here that we have in front of me now, up on the screen. But I do want to revert back there to if I know, like, if there was anything there with Joe Q. Public, a citizen, fishing or anything, they're quick to put a charge in restitution costs on that citizen for say, I don't know, say you drove a quad through a lake and they caught you and there's an oil spill yet. Well, you're on the hook for that huge cleanup and fish kill. They'll put a financial dollar on it. This here, I haven't heard anything on financial dollars. Mainstream media is pretty vague on what they report, obviously, most times. You can put two and two together. hey, newspapers need articles sold in order to make money.
You always got to look at who funds them.
Yeah.
So CBC, Global. I mean,
so it's just one hand patting the other hand, right? In the media, mainstream media controls a lot of what is said. Obviously, here it's anything goes. Obviously, I'll continue on here, Darren, and you can stop me at any point. The fish appeared to have become trapped in the channels of the river due to low water conditions and likely died as a result of warm temperatures and low oxygen. However, DFO continues to examine the causes. Now, you've proven it in one video there that it looked like tomato soup. It was that thick with
that was the other side. So the kill they're talking about is the kill on the freshwater side.
Gotcha.
Or what they call the freshwater, the upstream side, I'll call it, of the river.
Gotcha.
So that kill right there, that's a true statement in words, but it makes you lead you to believe it was because the lake was drawn down. See, the guy that wrote this is a wizard, right? He's a director. I assume who wrote this, right? So I don't have a name of who wrote this, but I can read the writing here, and honestly, it's the wizard as far as I'm concerned. And this man can spit media lines out. I'm standing up. He's actually that good. Like, he doesn't have to sit there at a table and do this. He can actually recite media lines on any topic as fast as you can imagine. But what he did there was he directed you to make you believe the fish kill because of the protocols that DFO put in place, right? So that's how good this man is. He can make you believe that. That's what happened. What happened is they held the water back for the lake for the politicians. And at the end of the day, they're not going to want to admit that, but they got me outside, and I'm a little bit of a different than a normal person. And, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Now, it says, in order to mitigate any further mortality, Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture, with agreement from DFO, began operation of the tidal gates to fill Lake. I don't even.
Physically.
Physically?
It's a Mi'kmaq word for junction of rivers.
Gotcha. To approximately 3 to 4 feet deep to mitigate the potential for fish to be trapped in these channels.
See what he did again? See, now you go back to that. See what he did again? He went and blamed DFO and the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans for telling them how dare them change their protocols. And he put the blame on the Fisheries and Oceans, which did an excellent job, honestly, of the protocols. And he put the blame on them once again in that statement. If you read it closely, he's blaming the lowering of the lake for killing the fish, because this is all about maintaining the lake. So I'll tell you how that works. Years ago, they said it was for the farmers. And I, dealt with that because I know all the farmers. I went to school with them. I don't want to fight with them, right? And I respect them because they're, in all honesty, the difference between farming and fishing is very, very small. We both work with our hands. We're both underappreciated. We both contribute real dollars to the economy, not fake dollars. We pull that dollar out of the ground or the sea. Anyways, so I consider us fairly close that way. So I try not to piss on them too much. But they had no problem pissing on me. So they lobbied last year, and they used the farmers anyway for an excuse to maintain the lake because they give the cattle a fence and to give the cattle a drinking source, which is illegal. But I never said that in public until this week. For 20 years, I've known that's illegal. Under the Fisheries Act, it's illegal, and under the Nova Scotia Environment Act, it's illegal. So until their representative come on to me this week, and I drove my feet in the ground, and I said, no more. No. This is illegal, what you're doing. And I shot him right up. He's done talking. Because he never thought I'd do it. But you know what? At the end of the day, they use that for an excuse. Then they use the canoe club for an excuse. They wanted to paddle their canoes. And then they use the fire hydrants for an excuse. And all they're doing is changing excuses. So when I took the farmers out there a couple months ago, in a way behind the scenes, I didn't take them out. I didn't do it maliciously, but I told DFO and Nova Scotia Agriculture, stop using the farmers for an excuse because it's an illegal activity and the government is supporting that. And I said, that is something you will not be able to get away with for much longer. And they agreed. So they switched it over to, well, we want to maintain habitat. So that was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And then they let salt water in on top of the habitat they supposedly were supposed to be maintaining. So I'm like, that's some serious bullshit right there. I mean, I'm glad you let salt water in, but you just erased your habitat, argument. Then they went from that to the fish kill. So this is purposely done. They held the water back. They killed the fish. Then they used the fish for a narrative to blame DFO's order, saying that they killed the fish, but DFO didn't kill the fish. They killed the fish by holding the water back, not the fact that DFO lowered the system to a natural level. Because a river flows naturally. So, like when a normal river flows, Windsor's different because they cut the water off in Windsor. So, literally, they shut that river off completely. There is no other place besides Wreck Cove and Out Chester Road they can do that. But the Windsor Causeway, it was done this morning. I videotaped it and showed everybody, right? It was done not yesterday morning, not last night, but the 2 tides before that. They literally shut that river off, and they left all those fish in that 7-8 kilometers of channel before the low tide mark, because that's how long it is before low tide going down river when it drains into Windsor. They left them all to die in the soup. Now, some of them probably survived in the odd hole, but a lot of them die every single day.
And you can't get an accurate count when it's like that anyway, Darren, because
you get to count them. So it wouldn't matter how. It doesn't matter how we count them all the time. So it wouldn't matter how many we count. They don't recognize it as an official count unless they come count them. But I write them every morning, and they won't come. See what's happening?
And I see what's happening there. I'm going to finish off the last 2 paragraphs there, Darren, because I got a pile of questions to ask here for the show on behalf of the show as well. So the tidal gates will continue to be open during each of the incoming and outgoing tides to allow for fish passage. DFO staff had visited the site and have reported fish are passing through the structure and continue to reach upstream areas of the Avalon River.
Okay. Now, what happened that day is a guy from FPP, which is Fisheries Protection Program, I was videotaping it when he came, and I kept him under the video to respect so people don't see who he is. They don't start lipping it when they see him, because these aren't bad men, right? You know what I mean? And people, these people have a job, and they're told what to do, and I wish they'd stand up the same as you, but I don't blame them all wholly. I blame them a little bit, though, but not completely. Anyways, he shows up, and they do the best job that I've seen them ever do. It's actually the best fish passage I've seen them do with that protocol. And the fish did come in, and they did a good job. They sent the Slindy so far up the river that the people that squawking about blocking the fish off by saying raise the lake, they started squawking about them letting the water go all the way up the river. So then they cut that back again and stopped letting it back up. I mean, the day he was standing there visually looking at it, which is not academically sound, I'll tell you that right now, right? If you can't just visually stand there and do a fish count with your eyes, I mean, you'd have to be some human to be able to do that. We have to get in the water with gear and start selecting them, time it, record it properly, your data entry, everything should be done. Just stand there and look at it. Yes, the fish did come in. We could see them. He was standing right beside me. But they manipulated that, and then the night, they blocked it off again. So as soon as he left, the one time he was there because they knew I was there. And they wanted to show their presence so that they could document their presence once. That's what happened. They actually, they were everywhere that day. That's the only day, but most of them didn't get out of their truck besides one. And they didn't count fish academically at all.
Gotcha. I'm just uploading some of the viewer comments here. One, come and support Darren Porter tomorrow at 5 at the Windsor Causeway by honking your horn or stopping by and say hi. That was one comment there. Somebody else said, I thought Darren called that off.
No, I'm out there. I'm still protesting by myself. So the RCMP had problems with me protesting at first, and they didn't want any more than 10 people, even though Justin Trudeau's taking a knee in Ottawa beside everybody, and there's protests in Cade University, thousands of people, and there's protests in Halifax. There was a problem with me assembling people. Once again, I'm a fisherman. So I respect the RCMP, and I let it go. And then I wrote them again yesterday, and they told me to put together a plan. So I did, and I put together a really professional plan. I actually had professionals put together the plan for me, because I have a whole bunch of people behind me. So all I got to do is say, can you do this for me? And it was done. They even acknowledged how well it was done. But they added so many questions to it, there's no way I could have answered them by tomorrow. But instead of me saying to them, I just said, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's too much for me to finish in time to have this back in, and me feel good about the fact that I can believe in everything I tell you. And I had a few people that were influential Tide politicians, very disruptive last night, 3 in fact, and I figured they might cause a scene. So at the end of the day, instead of them on the opposite side of this issue, there's only 3, but at the same time, those 3 people can make my message go away in a bad way. If they get in there and act like they're protesters and they cause a scene, which I believe they would have, because the way they were coming on to me, I think they were going to do something. So I didn't feel comfortable. I don't want to fight with the RCMP. I don't have a beef with the RCMP. I don't have a beef with fisheries officers, except for the fact you don't enforce the law for somebody else besides us. But I just called it off because it's going to take away from my message. So I'll sit in that hole at low tide. It's a hole. Nobody can see me down there neither. So you really can't see me. So that's symbolic too, because I'm not looking for media attention. I only get people to come to me. So CBC, CTV, whatever, I have their contact numbers. I have the Heralds. I'm in the Herald almost every week with other issues. I haven't called the Herald to do a story on this. You know, I haven't called the other ones because you know what? I don't care. At the end of the day, the citizens of Windsor all know I'm in that hole. The citizens of West Hants all know I'm in that hole. The government all know I'm down there in that hole. I was down there last 24 hours, basically, and I was getting poured on, rained on, and I'm in an open boat. I don't even have a chair in my boat. I sit on a metal rail because I don't want the comfort. Everybody's like, you got to take a chair. I sit there because the fish are uncomfortable. I'm going to be uncomfortable. And that's my message. My message is the fish are wet. I'm going to be wet. Right? You know, you understand me? So it's a symbolic gesture that I'm going to be uncomfortable in that hole with those fish, period, which is pretty strong when it goes across the country.
So, Darren, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I run through the viewer comments, obviously. There was almost 30 there that I blasted up here on the page, obviously, and more are rolling in as we go through. So we touched on the issues with the passage, and it's not being, protocols aren't being adhered to in the Fisheries Act, obviously. I know, Darren, with all that, a number of people are going to ask the question, if they haven't already asked the question, is in the count that you guys have done, what species of fish are affected by the closure of gates? Is it trout? Is it just specific Gaspereau? Is it sea run trout? Is it stripers? What species have you seen that have been hurdled by the gates?
Right. So the cool question. I'll just make it, sorry about making this a little bit longer, but years ago, I sat down with a First Nation friend of mine and another First Nation friend of mine, and we were talking with the fishery, how we're going to change things. And we come up with this idea, which follows along two-eyed seeing, but we called it third-eyed science at the time. So we started collecting the data. I commissioned my own weir study. We got 49 species. 49 species in one season. It cost $300,000 to do that study. We counted everything. And 49 species in 1 year. I published that study. It's on ResearchGate. People can go look at it. So, and then we put together studies with the Mi'kmaq, Commercial Fisheries, Katy University, Ordal, and we've counted dozens and dozens of studies. We tag sturgeon, we tag striped bass, tomcod, we tag American shad, skates. This affects a lot of species, but it doesn't really, in some ways. The question is that we have a new Fisheries Act, the answer is we have a new Fisheries Act that protects all species, right?
That's true, but in this case, it isn't being administered as the new act. Obviously, DFO is still utilizing, and I do have that up here, and I will bring that on here in a second, Darren. The act, obviously, for that. Where's that? Right here, the Modernized Fishing Act, obviously, and it's funny we touch on that here now because that is going to be in play. But like if we look at the befores and that, there's a lot of stuff, Darren. It seems like after the new act that DFO has put out, they aren't adhering to even the guidelines and the
no, they're not.
But
see, that's where the policy thing comes in that you talk about. Policy's garbage. I won't even talk policy. I'm at the place where you are. Policy is something that politicians teach the managers to spew to the public, okay? It's what really the liberal or the conservative government's wills and wishes. It's not law. The act and the regulations are the law. So I don't even care about the policy. I don't even want to talk about it, right? You know what I mean? Same as you said, no, it's garbage. It's just politics should not be in the Fisheries Act. And that's just the way it is. So right now, for instance, in my opinion, the guy that wrote that letter, probably his name was Kevin Beckers, he's a director for Agriculture, Nova Scotia. In my opinion, he's at a huge conflict of interest intervening in this situation because he's the arm of the politics. He's the director. A director is a political arm. You know what I mean? And to be involved in the situation, I believe it's a serious conflict of interest. Personally, that's my opinion, though. And someday maybe we'll find out what the judge says about this, right? But at the end of the day, do we have politicians into this Fisheries Act from the province and from the feds? I mean, the best person I ever heard put it was Graham Steele. He was a finance minister for the NDP. He wrote a book called The Effective Citizen, and everybody watching this should buy that book. As he tells you how to be an effective protester and stuff like that. And I got some good parts of it. My favorite part is he coined a phrase. He says, today's world we make a lot of decision-based evidence. We do instead of making science-based decisions. And what that means is a science-based decision is what you do with facts. So you go out and collect the science, and some government, you send it up to the government and say, well, this is what the science says, and the government does the right thing. That's very rarely used today under this government or the last government. So now what they do is the politician, say in Windsor, he makes a decision. I want a lake, and I don't want no salt water. And that's been his decision. It's been his stance. He sent emails out to everybody, status quo, no saltwater entry, and we want a lake. And that's just where he is. He will not change his stance, and he's ordered public funds to be millions and millions and millions of dollars to be spent to get his viewpoint, which is to have freshwater lake and no salt water. Decision-based evidence manufacturing. He's hired engineer firms. He's hired all these people with public dollars to make his vision come true, contrary to the Fisheries Act. Okay? That is so wrong, it's unbelievable. So that's what's really going on here, is decision-based evidence manufacturing. And that's almost in everything that we see today. There's very little evidence-based decision making anymore. We have the evidence, actually. The Mi'kmaq actually have the most data, and I have it in my possession, and the most data on the system, academically recorded by their people that are trained through universities and everything else. So that's their job, to collect data. They go on my boat, they collect the information, it's uploaded into computers every day and put into a cloud where DFO can access it or not. We don't have a requirement until the end of the year to do it, but we have been sending it pretty much on a daily basis. So we have the data in our possession. So if it was a decision-based evidence if it was an evidence-based decision process, they would be asking the Mi'kmaq, well, what do we do? Because the Mi'kmaq are the ones with the information. But they're not asking the Mi'kmaq, what do we do? They're telling the Mi'kmaq what they've done. See, this is the problem. What's going to happen here? This can is going to open. And right now, by not charging Nova Scotia Power and letting them take control of that ministerial order, and that's what they've done, is let them take control of it and give them back the reins that they've had for 49 and a half years. And they only lost them for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is all they lost the reins for. And then they gave it back to them out of fear because, once again, the crafty people in Nova Scotia, Department of Agriculture, created a situation that scared the federal government. They gave them back the reins. That, to me, it's all decision-based evidence manufacturing. If they wanted to do an evidence-based decision process, they would go to the Mi'kmaq basically simply and say, what's your data say? What do we do? Because we have all the data. We have the data for the down when they drew the water down. We have the data when the little gate openings are open, the long gate openings. We have it all, but they don't ask for it. They don't look at it.
And Darren, I've got the act up here, and there's a few things there in the new Fisheries Act, which is law, not policy, which is law. Okay, that I want to, because there's a lot of viewer comments coming in there. How does the new act help or whatever, or how can it help? Well, first off, protection of all fish and fish habitat. Is new in the new act that came out under what's called the Modernized Fishing Act, obviously. And what else is there is the protection against the death of fish other than by fishing,
other than fishing,
and the harmful alteration and disruption or destruction of fish habitat.
exactly.
So there's a couple of things here, but I also, Darren, if I roll down through, uh, under the old act, lack of transparency regarding authorization decisions for project, no requirement to publicly release information on these decisions. Under the new act, the requirement to publicly release information on project decisions throughout an online registry. Well, I just want to chime in on that one because that one there really jumps out at me, Darren. And just bear with me here 1 second. My cord came loose here, but yeah, that one there really irks me because most times, like, the government isn't transparent no matter what. They'll give you tidbits of information to make you happy, obviously. So that at the federal level, you have to do what's called an ATIP and whatnot, and then you got to go through the lengthy processes. 30 days. They can ask for another 30-day extension, another. Never do a damn appeal because they're so backlogged. It's not worth it. It's worth $160 to take it to court and get the information that they black out unredacted if a judge says it meets that requirement. So although there has been some changes, it's like somebody playing with magic. A sleight of hand, right? Only thing is here they're using wordsmithing or change of play on words to benefit things.
Well, I mean, that's where all these new employees are. These are all people to manipulate the public. Like, these are wordsmiths. They're literally professional wordsmiths, and they can write something, and they make everybody believe everything's peachy and cool when they're actually not saying that. I mean, they never really, very rarely tell the truth, and it's just that, to me, it's a gross situation. The longer this goes on, the more time I have to scream to the public, and the worse it's going to be for them at the end. I mean, because they know how to shut me up. All they have to do is provide fish passage to the best of their abilities, and that is not too much to ask for. So if I'm just asking for them to do their best with the structure they have and do it scientifically, not by some politician's wishes and wants, I can't lose in the public as long as I don't, make a mistake protesting in the wrong way. You know what I mean? As long as I don't do that and I follow all the rules and laws myself, I don't break no laws, they can't beat me. See, I'm in a position of power right now. They cannot beat me because I will not break those rules. I will not break those laws that they're allowing everybody else to get away with. And I will let them dig their own hole. And every day that goes by, their hole gets dug deeper and deeper.
And Darren, I got a few other questions here that I have tailored up myself to ask, obviously, while we were talking earlier there. Question: how long has the gate system been operating, and why is it an issue for those that may not understand the process? Obviously, now we've seen the fish kill, obviously, that took place, and in this, I know you mentioned there the Department of Agriculture plays into this as well as a mirror or NSP, whatever we wish to call them. It's kind of it's a conglomerate, I guess, of a number of different departments, but more so DFO not taking a stance as per what they have to do under the act, that they're neglecting to do, obviously. How long has the gate system been operating? I know you mentioned there close to 50
almost somewhere around 50 years. I can't remember the exact date, 1971, 72, or something like that.
So before you became so vocal on the issue.
Oh yeah, but the different operators operated differently. And when it started, it was never supposed to be a reservoir or lake. It was run as a river. So what people, I guess, you got to get in your mind every time I try to explain this is you picture a river, a major river that you go fishing in your backyard. I'm not talking about a brook. I'm talking about a river, or even a brook, really. And can you imagine somebody coming in and completely turning that off somewhere? What happens to life below it? So you cut it off and you let the water build up behind it. You put a dam in, and then you for so many, and you don't let a little bit down. So most dams, besides Wreck Cove, and Wreck Cove most days would have it, that they have a maintenance flow or a tracking flow, it's called, and they allow water to spill for the fish downstream to stay alive. Well, in Windsor, that's not the case. They literally turn that system completely off. And Avon River is a very, very big river, right? So, I mean, if you look at the end of the Minas Basin, if people don't know where it is, there's two big sister rivers. There's a whole bunch of rivers, but there's two big ones. One's the Shubenacadie River, which everybody knows usually. Shubenacadie rafting, it's a big, well-known river, up by Truro and Shubenacadie and Stewiacke. And then you have the Avon up by Windsor, which is the big sister river to the Shuby at the other end of the Bay of Minas Basin, the very end of the Bay of Fundy. So this is a massive river, and they've cut it completely off some days. Some days they let some maintenance flow out, some days they don't. But can you imagine? I can't think of anywhere else in our country where a river this size is literally chopped off, for 6 hours at a time, 5, 10, 15 times a week. I mean, it's atrocious. I mean, it shouldn't happen in the first place. So I'm fighting for maintenance flows is what I'm fighting for. At least keep them alive until you come up with the rest of the stuff. I mean, don't keep killing them every day. Like, at least keep these fish alive. Is that too much to ask for? I mean, she has a responsibility to the productivity of her ecosystem and our fishery. That's right in the factor she must consider. She has a fiducial duty or whatever to First Nations. She's there's like factor A, I think, and D, or maybe I can't remember, A and F. Under her factors she must consider is Mi'kmaq knowledge. That's right in the factors the minister must consider. That's not a should consider. That's not a whatever consider. I believe it says must, and that's a very powerful legal word. So she's and of course, well, where are they at? Why are they not calling the Mi'kmaq chiefs and saying, listen, instead of calling Kevin Beckers and saying, what's out there for fish? Because you know where Kevin Beckers gets his information on fish? He's not running around looking at fish. He has a recreational fisherman out there running around for his gatekeeper. So all the evidence the Nova Scotia government's collecting right now is collected by Mr. Lake. I know who's collecting their evidence. He's a great man. He's a good fisherman.
Darren, you touched on the Indigenous First Nations, the Mi'kmaq. Under what's new under the new Fisheries Act, it says provides for strengthening the role of Indigenous people in project reviews, monitoring, and policy development as part of the early steps to advance reconciliation.
Exactly.
Now, that seems like a failure in itself, right there.
It is.
Because it's black and white, and I have it highlighted here. Like DFO is doing so much, and now Darren, I'm outside the box. I'm not a media organization. Obviously, we're doing a podcast here because this is a hot button topic, and you've got a lot there. It doesn't even here it says creates new fisheries management tools to enhance the protection of fish and ecosystems.
Exactly.
Well, how is any of what you're talking about there?
That's my point.
With the system, and like we could preach COVID all day, right? That's just a cop out as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, look at. I mean, they've charged fishermen in the river I'm fishing in this year, and they had no problem doing it during COVID. They've charged recreational fishermen. Matter of fact, there's one the other morning they almost charged. He called me up. He said he mentioned my name, and they took off. It's funny because they said, "Well, why aren't you fixing Windsor out here harassing me?" Right? So I mean, they're out there harassing fishermen during COVID. And I'm not saying I shouldn't say that. Well, that's actually wrong. I'm not saying harassing. That's wrong because I do respect these officers. And I got to be careful with that because they're good men. I don't know a bad officer anymore. I used to know a few bad ones, but I don't know a bad officer anymore. So I should be careful. They have marching orders from management. At the end of the day, the politicians tell them what they can and can't do, and that is wrong. Their policy is wrong. It's not legally binding, and in all honesty, I think there should be some repercussions for that. We should be able to charge our politicians, and maybe we can. Because if a politician steps in to break the laws of Canada, why shouldn't we be charging them? And that's what we're looking at with some lawyers right now. I shouldn't talk about this too much, but
no, it's But leave that out because there's no point in loosening what your bottom line is, right?
No, right.
Some things
some things we're trying to keep a little bit quiet.
Yeah. So anyway, just stuff like that. You've got legal involved. That's as far as I would go with that, obviously. Yeah. But I want to point out something else, Darren. Here, it promotes restoration of degraded habitat and rebuilding of depleted fish stocks. Well, if that keeps up, it's not going to help depleted fish stocks any if there's any species. And this rolls into my next question: are there any fish in the system affected that are on the Cerulus.
There is Inner Bay of Funny Salmon, but see, they're crafty about that one too.
If so, why is DFO not enforcing the Fisheries Act? Like, it's a total mind-boggling failure.
Well, they're crafty. They have their wordsmiths and they have their little political shits, right? And what they did is they never classified it as critical habitat. So even though it is critical habitat, and even though in our study with First Nations and Acadian University, we've captured Inner Bay of Funny Salmon in there. The fact that DFO hasn't officially considered it critical habitat is their get out of jail free card in their minds. It doesn't mean it is the get out of jail free card, but it's what they use. And of course, we'll have to test that in court, whatever, right? So.
And you know what, Darren? Like, with species at risk, that is concerning as well because not federally, but recently Bob Bancroft had taken on the province Department of Lands and Forestry, and they've won that court case, obviously, for biodiversity and species at risk provincially, right?
I like the wording they used in the article. It said, systematic and chronic failure to fulfill the legal obligations under the Nova Scotia Endangered Species Act. Well, guess what? The government of Nova Scotia is systematic and chronic failure. That's a pretty strong wording, brother. To fulfill its legal obligations. Well, they're doing it again in Windsor right now. Exact same thing.
And you know what, Darren? What's it going to take? Is it going to take half a dozen dead salmon up there to get the federal government to say, Jesus?
No, it's going to take exactly what the
headline my language, but.
Going to take what the headline said. The headline says citizens must challenge the government if law is not followed. And it doesn't take, they don't care if salmon die. They kill salmon up in Gasbro, Inner Bay of Funny Salmon. They kill them up in the Gasbro Valley. I took a Mara on up in the back and I beat them to some extent, but they were killing Inner Bay of Funny Salmon up there. We caught them, but they didn't charge them. It's a species at risk because it's just the way the system works. Amara gets out of the get out jail free so many times. It's unbelievable. Then when we did nail them, they let them do this little escape plan instead of taking a fine so they can keep their ISO rating. See, Amara, the way you get Amara is you must threaten I shouldn't say threaten's the wrong word. You must push it to where they think they might lose this insurance rating or this special rating for their stature and investments or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, ISO rating or something like that. They don't want to lose that. So the government doesn't want them losing it neither because they all invest in Amara, right? Which is, in my opinion, honestly, conflict of interest once again. But, Amara kills salmon all the time, and other companies like them. So they kill salmon all the time. So that's not going to change anything. DFO has basically forgotten about the salmon. I haven't, but they, for the most part, the management of DFO or politic of DFO, I'm not saying the workers, some of the workers are diehard and they just love them, right? But the big boys and big girls in DFO have basically written the salmon off, which is because they don't make enough money off them. They don't care about species at risk. That's not going to stop them. What's going to stop them is the citizens of this province, and it's this country. And that article that was in the paper about that Bancroft and the lawyer, Jamie Simpson, they said it right in the title. Citizens stop this. I stop. You stop this. And I'm going to show the citizens that we can stop this. If they keep playing around, we'll stop more than this one. If they do the right thing, we'll stop here. We'll go back to negotiation tables in the scene. We'll be respectful. We'll ask for reasonable stuff, and we won't push it in the media so hard. But until they do the right thing, we have no choice.
And Darren, next question I've got: where does the Nova Scotia Federation of Agriculture stand with addressing the issue with the Nova Scotia Department of Agriculture in regards to these issues? I know Mr. Olton there. He's a man of many words when it comes to a lot of stuff in paper and that.
He he started coming on to me about, I think it was 2 nights ago, and I shut him down for the first time because I'm pretty complacent with my neighbors, so I'm a good neighbor. You know what I mean? And I love farmers, and I went to school with them all. Actually, I didn't go to school with Victor, but I went to school with his brothers. And basically, he started coming on to me because I was talking with the cows going down to the bank and went in and sold. I didn't bring up the violation of the Fisheries Act. I didn't bring up the violation of the Environment Act, but he opened the door to that. So now I will talk about it. So when he come on to me, I just, for the first time, I think he was shocked. I said, Victor, I said, you called for the fish to be blocked. He's like, no, he didn't. I said, you know that the lake being high, fish cannot pass, right? I said, that's why they draw it down in May, and you know that. You've been at this a long time. He goes, and he knows that. And I said, so therefore, just because you don't say you want the fish blocked, you've asked with a written letter to council to support you with the government and Fisheries and Oceans and the federal government to raise that lake level, which means block those fish. That's what you did to my industry and my children. I said, I never did that to you. I offered to go out and fix your fences. I offered to go out and help you repair stuff they build the dikes. I was a good neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
But now my feet's in the ground. And now you've just opened a can. So that's how that goes with me.
Gotcha.
If they want to start coming on to me, they better be careful because I can pull levers and I can push buttons. I can send letters, and there won't be none of them run their cows down to the pond.
And Darren, there's a lot of people obviously that support you. Like, my gosh, there's some pile, right? And I'm just wanting to touch on something here because I touched on it openly there, just based on one of your viewers obviously had brought it up. There is a petition that one of your supporters had done. Obviously, they'd done a change.org petition. Now, for those citizens out there that don't know any better, when you're dealing with the feds and most times the province, they don't accept change.org petitions. So it's a total, utter waste of time to sign. I did bring up the one here for Parliament, and it does give you the option to create a petition. Right here, create it, and you can have it endorsed. I see a lot of people talk about this Cody Boyce or whatever, so I figure he's an MP in the area, maybe. Not familiar.
He's unreachable right now besides photo ops in Kings County. He's staying out of Hants County this week.
So if you can't get a liberal, and I hate to beat up on either specific party, but if you can't get a liberal, get a conservative to endorse it or present it on your behalf in Parliament. Get as many signatures as you can, but this is the right way to do a petition.
Yeah, and I mean,
because it's digitally signed and it is accepted.
That petition, I don't like to say it's useless because somebody took the time to write it, for one. So it's got some inaccuracies in it, and I didn't say nothing. I just kind of let it go because I'm just glad a citizen started learning.
And you know what, Darren, I accredit the citizen, right? I'm not beating up on the citizen, but knowledge is key, right? Like for me,
that's part of the process. I never did anything. I still make mistakes every day.
For me to go ahead and allow you guys to go ahead with a change.org petition with me knowing the fact that it's not going to be accepted. So if you get 40,000 or 100,000 signatures and then it gets thrown in the garbage because it's not worth the paper it's printed on, well, that's a waste of the energy that some citizen put in. So if that citizen that created
but it's also about votes, right? So whether or not really, I mean, I'm out there right now videotaping them doing violations. I bet you the Minister of Fisheries and the Minister of Agriculture. Well, the Director of Agriculture called my mother on a Sunday. This Sunday, yes, look, that's today. Mom called me, or yesterday. You either called her today or yesterday. I can't remember because I work so much. And I'm on the water so much, I get my days mixed up. But he called my mother, actually. Can you imagine? I was going to ask him for his mother's phone number. But anyways, probably because she was one of the ones that called. Maybe just calling her back. But regardless, the director called my mother. And I don't know. I just found it was ironic. But the thing is what he said was, what she told me he said, and was that everybody was calling so much it was bothering the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's progress. So I want them to be uncomfortable because they make us uncomfortable. I mean, they're destroying my family's livelihood. See, that's what people don't get. Now, people call me saying I'm fighting this because I profit off because I fish over there. Well, yeah, I do fish over there, but they couldn't say that when I took down Annapolis Turbine. I mean, I never fished Annapolis River in my life. I went down there on behalf of an organization or two, and they asked me to come in, and it was a monster atrocity. And I found the trigger. I found the legal trigger, which was the fact that it wasn't authorized, and there was no operational approval. And I triggered a CSAT. And in that CSAT, there was, it proved that it killed over 10% of the fish on every single pass, 10% plus of the fish on every pass, and it's a monster. So we actually beat that after 35 years. So then that was Amera and DFO, of course, sticking up for them, and the governor of Nova Scotia sticking up for them. But we took them out. So, but the thing is, there's so many people calling right now that everybody's stirred up. And stirred up is good because when you start scaring the politicians, they're going to lose votes. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they're going to get scared. Because if we can make Cody Boyce or Chuck Porter, the MLA, the Minister of Municipalities, we can make them think they're going to lose their seats. Steve McNeil will come down, or Justin Trudeau. Somebody will come down and say, boys, you're losing riding here. Whoa, buddy. Whoa, buddy. Maybe you shouldn't be so hard-headed with that, no salt water, or maybe you shouldn't be so hard-headed with that lake. Maybe you should rethink this. And that's where I want to get them. I want to get them in the votes. I want to get them in the back pocket.
And Darren, you're right about the votes and that. The other thing too is a lot of these MPs and MLAs have a lot of power. It's unfortunate though that they don't use what they have at their hand because they toe the party lines, which is very unfortunate. In this case, doing the right thing, it doesn't seem to be on their agendas. But I'm going out on a limb here, and follow the money. And what I mean by that is if you check any of their political contributions through Elections Canada or Nova Scotia, you will see their donors. I'm sure if you follow contributions made from under CRA, check CRA, because any industry that makes donations to, say, Darren, you got your own organization there. So if you ever had a donation made by a mirror to you, you can go ahead and find that through CRA's website because it has to be claimed, obviously. So follow the money, and what I mean by that is some of the ones that may have their hands in this cookie jar or in this fish pond, blocking things, may be receiving financial benefit in some way, shape, or form.
Or maybe there's a development they want to do above the causeway someday, and they figure if they basically left it as a lake and they didn't let no salt water in, the municipality would be able to issue permits to a certain developer. I don't know. There could be a whole bunch of things going on here.
And you know what? Depending on what it is, you got federal and provincial that rule the roost over municipalities anyway. So I'm not saying it's happening, but I'm just saying you got a lot of followers there that can put the time into research and check.
I'm going to put a reward out on that because I already been told some of the reasons for this, the real stupidity of trying to save that lake, the real reasons, right? But I don't know if they're true completely. So I don't like talking about things without evidence, but I'm getting ready to put a reward for factual information on the real thing. Because I put a reward for fish. You remember that last week?
Mm-hmm.
The guy caught, I put a reward for the first striped bass to be caught above the causeway when they actually put fish passes through. So there was like dozens and hundreds of people fishing up there, and a guy from Ducks Unlimited caught the first bass. I transferred him $1,000 of my hard-earned money. And I got $2,000 on a sturgeon, and I got $500 on American shad because there's never been one recorded in the last 50 years captured on rod and reel. These are all captured for rod and reel by following the rules and laws, and they have to videotape evidence it. So what happened is when the province stepped in, they stopped all those people from basically fishing because now they're going to block the fish. And so after the 14th, it almost seems like they're going to block the fish completely. So then nobody will be able to fish. So they didn't do it for the community. Who are they doing that for? They're not doing it for the people. They're not doing it for the 100 and 200 people that were up there fishing. They just put them under there for fishing.
So, Darren, yeah, because we're over the hour mark, obviously, and I said so about 8 episodes back we were going to try to keep it at the 1 hour mark. But you know what? I commend you for what you're doing. My next question, though, is I just have to find it here because I kind of jiggle around on a few. What options do you have to fix this issue and rectify fish passage in Windsor?
Education, teamwork, and connections and friendships. So basically, what I've done for years is I've built an army. And I built an army through trust. I never once lied to a DFO official. I never once lied to one of my allies or anything like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
use my words. So after years and years and years and years of people know when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I've basically trained everybody to understand if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I do things fairly, always, always fairly. This is the first time I've ever drove my feet in the ground. So that's my power. Is once I've drove my feet in the ground, they know I'm serious. There's no doubt in my mind. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really saying something. And the people in my community know I'm serious, right? So at the end of the day, they got to make a decision. And they got to see what am I going to keep escalating this in a peaceful way every day and keep talking more and more and more and educating people more and more and more and more about the stuff that you and I know that the normal people doesn't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get the people to educate themselves. I'm not just going to tell them. I'm going to take that camera, and I'm going to make these little agents taking pictures, and they're going to go collect this evidence themselves. So when they collect it themselves, they're going to learn more themselves. I am educating people in a true way, so that it's not actually me manipulating them like the government does. They're actually finding this stuff with themselves. So I took the camera take my camera every day, and I put it on those gates, and they
Mm-hmm.
watch them up, and they watch them go down, right? And they do that themselves. So I'm truly educating them. I'm not sending them media lines. I'm telling them the truth. So eventually, enough of them's going to sit there and go, "We're not doing this no more. What else is like this?" So then I'm going to make them go study more, like Moses Cody did back in the 1920s with the farmers and the fishermen. Right? I am
Mm-hmm.
going to try to repeat what he did, and that's where I'm going with this. The government probably should do something pretty soon, because the longer I get to do this, the more citizens become educated, the harder it is for them to twist their agendas.
Well, you know what, Darren? I'm really hoping you make some more progress. You're you're bull in a china shop, and you know what? Hey, guess what? You have a huge following. So for those in government that aren't listening, uh, and for those that had inquired on why I was willing to help you,
Yeah,
yeah,
funny you got
it,
a call. It's funny
it's
you get this call.
it's it was funny when you had mentioned my name and said that I was willing to help you. Uh, Bells and whistles kind of went off. Unfortunately,
You,
for them, obviously.
you know what the fisheries officer told the fishermen? It's none of your business, Windsor. That's what they said
Yeah.
to some fishermen the other day. I mean, come on, guys. I mean,
But you know what? Hey, I'm not from your area. I've got the podcast. It's called Coast to Coast Outdoors. This is stuff that needs to be brought up because we're all conservationists. We're all fishers. We're anglers. We're hunters. We're boaters, for crying out loud. You name it. The outdoors, Coast to Coast Outdoors encompasses it all. And I'm not siding with the government saying they're right or whatever, but I'll tell you this: the old saying goes, "A picture tells 1,000 words."
oh
Uh,
yeah, certainly.
and you know what? Videos now tell more.
And you know
So.
what I'm trying to teach people is this word I've been called for years called a NIMBY, and it means not in my backyard. And
Mhm.
the universities use it as a derogatory term, and industry uses it as a derogatory term in all their papers for labeling a segment of society that tries to protect their backyard when industry wants to come to destroy their backyard. And it's basically, and even in the one Nova Scotia report that Steve McNeil follows, right out of the report, it basically says in there too, if somebody doesn't want to conform to our ideas, we just keep moving forward and blah blah blah. They don't mean nothing, kind of, but it says it in different words. So that's their mindsets. But I'm going to teach the people to protect your own backyard, because if you don't protect it, nobody will. And that's my goal too. I got a bunch of goals here, and I want everybody to protect their backyards, and I want to empower those officers, just like you said earlier in this podcast, to step out and use that ombudsman or use that whistleblower thing and step out and do the right thing. Go home and look in the mirrors and say, am I really doing the right thing? Not just officers, FPP, CMP, licensing. License is a huge one. That's a monster right there. So at the end of the day, I want DFO officials to go home and say, are we going to really leave him down there in that hole? Because I'm going on a hunger strike tomorrow, starting tomorrow. Right? So they're going to leave me not only down in the hole exposed in an open boat. It is my choice to do so, though. And I will say that right now. They're not making me do it. I'm going down that hole, and I'm going to go on a hunger strike tomorrow morning, starting tomorrow morning. And I want this fixed. And I don't want everything fixed at once. My request is simple. Follow the Fisheries Act and the rules of Canada and enforce it. And that's all I'm asking. So how can they beat me? They can't beat me because they're the ones lying. And all I'm doing is following the laws of Canada. I'm only doing it by myself. So I'm not putting anybody else in danger. I'm down in a hole where nobody can see me. Right? They know I'm there. They even moved the camera. They removed the fucking camera. The web cameras, the Nova Scotia webcam, they actually, you can look at it and it looks like my boat sitting there, but they still framed the camera. And they pointed it at the ground so you can't see me out there now. Anyway, so they manipulate everything. But at the end of the day, all they can do is keep manipulating. I'll just keep telling the truth, and I will follow every single rule and law, and I'll give them no reason to remove me. And if I give them no reason to remove me, and all I do is ask them to follow the laws of Canada, the same ones they make the Aboriginal fishers, the recreationals, and the commercial fishermen, they cannot beat me.
And you know what, Darren? That is 100% to the fact. And for, like I said, for your viewer there that did the petition, great on them. If they can switch that over into the Parliament one.
But it is, I should really do it myself. I got to take the time. The problem is I've been in that hole except for tonight. I took tonight off the first night because I had to get done, and I took my tonight off in the hole.
And you know what? If you get that done, it helps the cause. And I'm telling you, there's some other politicians that may get involved. Like Darren, you know me. You've known me for a number of years. The podcast here, I try not to get 100% political, but I do want to give credit where credit is due. There is some good folks within DFO, fisheries in general, agriculture. Most times they get overshadowed by their bosses who just want to accept policy and not the actual law, which is unfortunate. So I wanted to be clear on that as well. And Darren, like I'm here in Cape Breton. I'm supporting you guys to make waves to get your end goal accomplished. I offered to, like I said, to assist in any way I can. I did, like I told you there earlier or the other day, there was well, I was on CTV News yesterday talking about the free fishing weekend, obviously, and I did talk to Kyle Moore, the reporter, and I did give him your contact number. And hey, Darren, like the media know, if I vouch for somebody, it's because I
start getting sick. When I start getting sick or something like that, down that hole, I'm going on hunger strike, and the public cries enough, that's when CBC will cover. That's when Global will cover. That's when, and I'm not calling them. I don't care if they come. I want people like you. I want people like Ian Swanner. What a job he did on that interview. I don't need CBC, nor do I even want them. I don't need CTV. I don't need Global, nor do I want them. Who watches that shit anymore? It's all fake news. And at the end of the day, I mean, we gotta be careful here too. We got a government starting to say they want to control the narrative of the news. Well, look at CBC and that stuff now. I mean, you can't even get them to cover a real story.
Darren, I'm going to chime in there and tell you point blank. When you start doing the ATIPs with federal fisheries and whatnot, you'll see how scripted that they are. They want questions they want the questions prior to, like before this show, Darren. I didn't script my questions to you. I hit you with them head on, right? Now, like the other medias, when you do FOI pops, you'll see that even with Nova Scotia Agriculture, you would see that the media had scripted things prior to them. If you do a FOI pop, which is provincial,
gonna show you
Darren, it's a finicky situation, but I will.
There's some FOI pops right there, and I know FOI pops. Everything they care about is all they care about. They don't care about fish. They never care. You know, in that FOI pop, there's like what, I don't know, 5,000 pages there or something like that. There's only like 2 or 3 pages in the whole thing that care about fish. All they care about is the public narrative, what the public's going to find out. I think every single citizen should learn how to use the ATIP and the FOI pop system, Freedom of Information Act, so they can really understand how this shit works.
You know what? It's so underutilized. Darren, I'll be honest, it's so underutilized that unless you're a guy like me or a guy like you or a media outlet, they're the only guy, like we seem to be the only ones that utilize it the most. Yes, it does cost some money, and most times we spend our own money to accommodate getting the information we want. But I will tell you this, Darren, keep the faith, brother, because
they can't be justified. See, that's the thing.
Because Darren, I'm going to tell you this point blank. There's people here in Cape Breton that said like myself and our group, Port Morion Wildlife, we couldn't win against industry. We couldn't win against this. We couldn't win against that. We couldn't win against certain aspects. We had government departments telling us, no, policy states you can't do this. Well, policy isn't law. It isn't law. So when you go ahead and you wise up to the fact there that this is going to actually help a person move forward, like bang. I will chime into. We do have an aging demographic that at one point they had to fight Darren, but now they don't because of ailing stuff, technology. They may not be technologically advanced, whatever. But I'll tell you this: any input you can get from an elder or a senior in the public, try to utilize that to help your cause as well, because they are knowledge keepers, and they do have a wealth of knowledge there that will help as well. If you can get any ex-employees that are retired.
That's the thing. I already have an army too, and I'm collecting them more every day. I have ex-DFO. I have them already. You know what I mean? That's the thing. They don't have no idea what I got yet, and that's the thing. I escalate every day. I grow my army every day, and that's exactly what it is. It's an army. It's an army of people that know what they're talking about, and it's an army of people that are fed up with the system being manipulated by politicians. And that's just how it is. We want the Fisheries Act to be enforced. We want to preserve our industry. I'm looking after my future industry, my children's industry. My daughter is actually in the Museum of Natural History in Halifax as one of the the women showcased last year. She's a phenomenal person, phenomenal fisherman, right? And she calls herself fisherman. I'm not calling her a fisher person because she still calls herself a fisherman and she likes that. So she's been celebrated for what she is, and they're right now trying to take her future away. So what they got me back into the corner, a guy that took a mare down twice in 2 battles, and them, and other battles, many other battles, work on tidal turbines. I put tens of thousands of hours into that battle. They've got a guy backed into a corner that understands them, that knows the rule of law. The only one that can defeat me is myself. I cannot make a mistake. I will not break the rules. I will not break the law, because that's the only way they can defeat me. They are taking my livelihood away. They are breaking their own laws and regulations. I have nothing. I have nothing to lose. You understand that? I have nothing. They're taking my livelihood away. They're taking my children's livelihood away. They're destroying it. And that's against the Fisheries Act, actually, productivity, right? They're killing these fish. They're blocking off their maintenance flows. They're destroying my future, my children's future. Honestly, if I don't break the law, they can't beat me. All I got to do is keep trying to get them to enforce the law and showing people. There's a no-win situation for them, and they know it, and I know it.
And you know what, Darren? Tomorrow is Ocean's Day.
Exactly. And I start my hunger strike on Ocean's Day. And I will protect, if the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans in her backyard, 45 minutes from her house, will not protect the ocean, I will. And that's the message I'm sending. I will comfortable my boat in a hole, and I will starve myself. if she won't do her job.
And Darren, I am going to elaborate as well. I know I have shared it repeatedly throughout the broadcast here with you and the viewers, obviously. Minister of DFO, you can email her at min@dfo-mpo.gc.ca. That email is there. Now, for those that think that it goes directly to the minister and the minister reviews this, I hate to burst that bubble, but I will bring them down to reality, because I did have a couple of people message me saying, I'm waiting for a reply from Bernadette. Unfortunately, the reply does not come directly from Bernadette Jordan, the minister. It comes from one of either the directors in her department or one of her office staff that is bureaucratical office staff, obviously, that will script. Many people there, Darren, and I'm putting it out there as past learnings, will probably get the same generic response. So hold on one sec there. Let me throw it out there. If you guys and girls and gentlemen and ladies that do get a response via email, and I'll tell you, email's the best because it doesn't get lost. It ends up on a server, and it's fully poppable, or an ATIP at the federal level. So you can get an ATIP of all of the emails that come in, obviously, in regards to this issue. Now, the other thing I want to touch on is that if Darren, your supporters get a generic response back, let's have them post and tag you, the strand the fisherman, strand the fish. Let the responses they get back. Let's see if it's a generic scripted letter, which I'm willing to bet it will be. From a bureaucrat within the office, answering the replies. Let's see how many, because I know most of your viewers aren't using a scripted email with their name and their address on it.
What I like about this is I look at the minister thing a little different than you just did, which I love the difference of opinions, right? I think it's the right thing to do to send a minister. That way it trickles down to the right departments. Because if you don't know who to send, so I'll give you an example. If you don't know who to send, exactly who to send a complaint to, it can be missed, and they don't actually consider it going to the right place. I don't know how to explain it. If you send it to the minister, it goes to the right place, at least. So when you send a complaint into the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, she probably never, ever, ever will read that letter. That doesn't matter, though, because then it goes to licensing, Greg Stevens. Then it goes over to Mark McLean and the FPP, right? You understand? Goes over to Ray McCleve if you're down in Yarmouth area for CMP. And it goes, if you're in the Halifax area, it goes Trevor Lushington. If you go into your place, I think it's Lauren Penny or whoever's up there now. So the right people get the mail. So, at the end of the day, if you message the minister, they can't claim you didn't send it to the right place. So I would say they hate that too. They really don't like you messaging that minister.
It leaves a paper trail, but for those viewers there that want to send it hard copy, sometimes they get misplaced. The emails, it automatically logs on the server. It doesn't go away, obviously. So it's funny, but I'll tell you, Darren, we've touched on so much in regards to that.
We could do this every night, brother. We could educate the country and rile the whole fishery up and get them all to unite together. Maybe we still got to get that. Still got to get that recreational halibut fishery opened up. You and I.
I got to touch base with Sterling Bellevue and we'll work on that. That's a topic for another episode, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, Darren, it's nice to see the viewership that you have, obviously, and I hope the education that I have acquired on my own, which was unfortunate that I had to go that way, because nobody taught me how to navigate the system, Darren. Same as you, right? It was a learn as you go type deal. But when you start knowing, it's easier to share that knowledge and pass it on, because you never know one day to the next how much life you
get. You and I we know that makes them shaking in their shoes. You got to call at 6 o'clock in the morning wondering why you're working with me.
I got a call asking why I was working with you, which was interesting. But again, the calls, Darren, like they know the system too well, because if they call you, it doesn't get logged.
No, exactly.
So if they email you, it's logged, right? So it's they know how the systems work, obviously, and I could get into detail on and on all night about the FOIPOP system, but you know what? I'm hoping it gives your viewership and followers some insight that there's a big picture here, and things aren't always as they seem. Hope somebody gets smart and does their homework and checks to see if there's any
Everybody
trails.
read what you say. Like, read something 2 or 3 times. That's the key. When you see a media line come out from the DFO or Department of Agriculture, sit down and read what it really says. Don't, we're used to skimming stuff and saying, oh, okay, that's cool, everything's fine. They dropped the lake down, it killed the fish. They moved the lake back up, the fish is now okay. They're protecting the fish. That's what you got out of that email, but that's not what it said. That's not what it was. That's not the truth. There's no facts there. So it's just a way of manipulating you to think that that's what they do. They're trained to do that. They have, I mean, Kevin Beckers, in all honesty, is the smartest director on the fly that I've ever seen in my life. He's a brilliant man. Do I really appreciate his work? Absolutely not. But do I appreciate his skill? Oh yeah. He's a adversary. That's all I got to say.
And you know what? I've been displaying some telephone information that's popped up from your viewers, obviously. And you know what, Darren, you've got a great numbership. People in your corner. You've got the A team, buddy. So I'm hoping that
it's growing. See, that's the thing. They're allowing me to build an army. You see that? Mm-hmm. They're allowing me to expand my army and change the system. They're doing it themselves by breaking the law. And that's just how it is. As long as I follow the law, they can't beat me.
Mm-hmm. Well, Darren, you know what? I've got a request here from one of your viewers and supporters. Let's have the next podcast from Darren Boat in front of the gates.
So, after COVID's over and we're allowed to actually sit 6 feet apart, brother.
Oh, no. What he's talking about is we do the podcast. I do it from my remote location. You do it from your boat because you're on your cell phone now.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. I like that idea.
So you know what? Maybe Darren will try for episode 16.
Yeah, people could actually see my hole. As once I'm down there, I can't get back out. I'm locked in there. I have the largest tides in the world I fish in. Mm-hmm. And I'm locked down there. There's no movement. So when that wind howls through there and that rain smashes me in the face, I got no canopy. I'm wide open. I don't even have a chair. I just sit on the rail of my boat in the metal steel box in the back. It's got a cabinet. And I sit there uncomfortable. My back hurts. My feet hurt. My ankles swell up. I'm sitting, 20-some hours a day. At the end of the day, I'm uncomfortable because my fish are uncomfortable. And that's the message I'm sending. I didn't tell people at first what I was doing. I just did it. So when they look down there and they're like, man, are you still down there? Are you still down there in that hole? And I said, yeah.
So Darren, what I'll touch base if maybe sometime this week we can do it, and I'll try to do it around a time there where we do it for about 30 minutes, the podcast, because we're at an hour and 42 now, obviously. But what I'll try to do is set it up that way, and then it doesn't eat up.
Done it right after Bernadette Jordan said how she's protecting the oceans. Ocean Day. Well, I'm sure Trudeau and Bernadette Jordan's going to be out saying how good of a job they're doing.
And you know what? Regardless, Darren, we can get the message out there. I'm all in support of conservation and that. And the fish kill doesn't sit well with me personally.
Not just stop fish kill; they kill fish daily.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the thing, right? So we'll work on Darren trying to set something up in the days or weeks to follow, obviously, and go from there. It seems like something there that's it needs to be addressed, and if mainstream media won't touch it, I'll touch it on the podcast because hey, it's another platform, right?
Yes.
What I am going to ask, if any of your viewers are there, give me a like on Facebook or a follow for Coast to Coast Outdoors Visual Podcast, and this way here, when they're online, they can get the updates when we do go live with you again. So other than that, Darren, unless you want to finish on the final note,
I just want to make sure if anybody protests this, do it peacefully and do it within the laws. Because if they can make a fool of us, they will, and that's how they win. They basically control the media. So at the end of the day, if you're protesting, you want to help these fish, you need to make sure you follow the rules. And you know what? You're allowed to protest. It's a constitutional right. Stay 6 feet apart, man. You know, assemble. You can walk and you can walk around 6 feet apart. Just don't cause no trouble. At the end of the day, don't give them a reason to twist this narrative, and the fish will win. This isn't about me winning. This is about the fish winning. If the fish win, the Eagles win. If the Eagles win, the Ospreys win. I videotape Ospreys catching fish every day almost on my live feeds. How many people get that in their lifetime? I see it every day. I see, 10, 15, 20 eagles. An osprey fishes beside my boat every day. So, in the otters and the minks and the rivers, they all need these fish. So it's not me winning. It's not you winning. It's the river that wins. The next generation wins, and all the wildlife and all the fish and all the birds. That's the message.
You know what, Darren? Can't beat it, right? I will tell you this: when I seen as many dead fish there, and my first impression was all them fish that are going to waste, that died unnecessarily. Obviously, did not have to die. But I'm thinking during this whole situation, like the crowd that I've seen me take animals to in Truro, in Hilden, at the Cobequid Wildlife Rehabilitation Center could have really used them for rehabilitation of bald eagles and so forth, right? For food to offset their costs, right? So it's one of them situations there where, hey, it's something, but I'll give them a shout out as well, that if there's any fishermen, because you do have a number of fishermen there, if they have any bait fish that they can donate.
Well, we just basically, our season for Gas Pro is now done. By holding back the run, by not using the gates properly, they basically destroyed part of our season, for one. And two, we're done on the water for Gas Pro. That's all over for us. But the Gas Pro run is still happening. I got a new run coming on the new moon. So in the Avon River system, the Gas Pro run on the quarter moon. So quarter moon's only a few days away. And when that tide starts building again after that quarter moon, there'll be a big push. And there could be a big kill there. So we get a 28-degree day, 26-degree day, and he cuts that maintenance flow off. After that quarter moon, you might see transfer trucks loads of fish on your show. So it's they got a perfect storm created up there. So what they've done, they got a recipe for disaster. They got me down there in a hole with a video camera, and they're playing God up there. And they literally are playing God. I actually told a new operator 5 years ago, the last thing he said when he called me in to talk, because me and the last operator, we went at it hardcore. And this guy, I knew his father. His father taught me in school, and he was an educated, good man, right? And he called me in, and the last thing I said to him, I said, before I leave, I said, "You're now the God of the river because you control it." He goes, "I'm no God." And I said, "Yes, you are. And today, here we are. You have the control in your hands of life and death of this river." And that's the truth. The Department of Agriculture should not have that control.
And you know what, Darren? I hope to God we don't see truckloads of fish obviously going to a landfill or whatnot.
They won't go landfill. The tide takes care of them. That's the thing about outside. It's beautiful. Is the ones on the outside that are killed, the humans never see them. They go down into the mud at the bottom that they create. So and they get washed down the stream. So you only see them for a day or two, then they're gone. So that's what they love about killing you. The old operator, the one I fought with for 15 years, he used to say to me, "I'll kill them on the outside, and the tide will take care of them." I have that documented in multiple letters to the government over the years. That's how they treat these fish. They kill them on the outside so the public can't see them. And then when they kill them on the inside, oh my God, we killed fish.
And you know what, Darren? Hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully they get their heads out of their behinds and
it will happen. Unless Bernadette Jordan enforces the Fisheries Act, we will have a kill very soon again.
So a lot of people there getting generated emails, obviously, email responses back, which is typical, par for the course. But you know what, Darren? I hope everything goes good. I hope that mainstream media picks this up as well.
I just hope Bernadette Jordan sends some marching orders down and says to their officers, "Ray, Trevor, send your troops out, do your job." That's all I want. That's all I want. I want them to apply the law and to preserve this ecosystem. I don't care. Global, I don't care about ATV, CTV. I don't care about that. I want Bernadette Jordan on Ocean's Day, hopefully, to say, boys, ladies, please go do your job and save that river.
Darren, I'm going to throw out a challenge there because I know you've got a lot of people following. For those that are watching and listening to this, Google the news media outlets and hit them hard and say, hey, it's World's Oceans Day. Here's what Darren Porter is doing. Why aren't you guys reporting it? Bombard them because you know what? It's flood them if you have to.
The
And
best part of that is the people learn that the system is not the way they think it is. And that's what I love. I love it when somebody realizes they've been fooled for a long time because then they get mad.
And hopefully the message gets to the bigger media outlets. Whether or not they report it, it's beyond our controls.
You know who I want to report this? The first media outlet. I mean, Herald. I mean, Aaron Beswick. I can get Aaron Beswick to, or Ashley Thompson or Carol Morris Underhill probably to write this anytime. I get articles done all the week. I haven't asked them to write this. I haven't asked anybody. I'd love to have Joan Baxter write this. She's a friend of mine. I might actually ask her, but I haven't even asked her to write it. See, that's the thing. I haven't asked anybody to do anything.
And you know what, Darren? Again, it's like the people there. You've got people in your corner that are pushing, and supporting you. If they can support in the right way, you guys in Windsor got this win handed to you guys.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is just a war of attrition at this point. How much more does she want me to say? That's all this is.
Mm-hmm.
She knows I'll just stop doing this, and I'll go back down to my fishing thing, and I'll collect data with the First Nations and the universities, and I'll be a good boy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The way you get me out of that hole is to enforce the Fisheries Act, which is not unreasonable. I am not asking for something unreasonable. Right?
Yeah, and you know what? My suggestion I'm going to throw out there is get in touch with KMKMO or Chief Terry Paul or even Chief Rod Google.
Follow my Chief Andrea Paul. She put her heart on my page today, right? These chiefs are fully behind a lot of things that are done. They just can't say. I'm not saying they're fully behind me. I don't want to say that. But they definitely respect me. And I respect them. We're friends, actually, most of us. Mm-hmm. We're friends. We don't have fake relationships. Like, I don't, fly a flag in front of my host and say, I'm friends with a Mi'kmaq. I'm actually friends with many Mi'kmaq. I'm true friends. I got at least 100 true Mi'kmaq friends. That's more than probably most people even know. I mean, see, the thing is, I don't build fake relationships. My relationships are real. That's my power.
Yep. And you know what, Darren? I'm in the same boat as you. I've got many friends within the Mi'kmaq as well that are pretty high up there, obviously, and they've been real great to work with when I have worked with them over the years on addressing issues. And you know what? It's always great to work with the Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia to get the help and move things forward to see a resolve.
We get far more done together than we do when we fight.
Yeah.
And that's how it is.
And that's a fact. So with that, Darren, I've got nothing else there to do or say. Obviously, I think we've exhausted everything there. A lot of viewers, man, have commented in, and you know what? It's been a blast seeing each and every reply. For those viewers there on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as Podcast and Podbean, do me a favor, check out the podcast in its entirety on Coast to Coast Outdoors virtual podcast on Facebook, because the virtual side of things is there. You will see the photos of the fish kill. You'll see the dockets that we have. You name it, you'll see it there in its entirety. It adds more to the experience, and search Darren Porter on Facebook.
There was a woman that started this battle before I did. Her name is Sonia Woods. She actually took her wheelchair to Ottawa. How about tomorrow on Ocean's Day, #Bernadette Jordan, which I think her call sign is #Save the Avalon or something like that. right? So, I mean, she doesn't like me too much, but I don't care. She doesn't like me. I love her. I love all people. At the end of the day, how about we hashtag Sonia Woods tomorrow, and we say save. She has a group called Save the Avalon or Save the Bay, whatever. So look it up. Look up Sonia Woods. Find her site. Save the Avalon hashtag. Bernadette Jordan, Save the Avalon. You know what I mean? Do something like that. So when she's up there and people's gonna say, "What's the Avalon?" Hashtag Strand the Fish, Strand the Fisherman. Have people check that shit out, right? You know what I mean? On Ocean, let's put DFO's feet in the fire tomorrow. Everybody watching us, do something to put DFO's feet in the fire. Because I guarantee you, if you threaten the vote, you can make change, and that's the only way it happens.
So with that, Darren, I've got nothing else. You've got nothing else. I'm gonna take you offline here for a second, and I'm gonna play the outro, and I'll be back to chat with you in a second, Darren.
Okay, bud.
So, folks, there you have it. I had Darren Porter from Windsor, Nova Scotia. Darren is a true advocate for everything fishing, everything fish related. He's an asset for you folks up there in the Windsor area, and the squeaky wheel makes the most accomplishments, obviously. And I wish Darren all the best with this, and I really hope that you guys listen and support Darren in any fashion that you can. I'm your host, Jeff McNeil. This was a last minute podcast, obviously, that I had with Darren, which I appreciate him coming on for Coast to Coast Outdoors, episode 15. We've had a number of unique people from different fields, expertise, so on and so forth. And Darren is very well knowledgeable in that field that he talks about. So, again, I'm going to try to take the viewer engagements, and I'm going to try to hopefully have another episode there with Darren. Not as long as this one, obviously, but I will try my darndest to have him at the gates and get the message out there a little louder and clearer. Again, geez, like, you guys are just like the thank yous. Like, for everybody that's watching, thank you. Do us a favor, like us on Facebook. We're on Instagram as well, but you can see all the videos from past and future up here. Like us, follow us, share us. Again, thanks for viewing, and I will do my best to have Darren back on again to accomplish the end goal, and that is to keep the fish flowing without what we see in the photos that we displayed earlier. So, folks, with that, thank you again, and have yourself a great evening. Merci. Thank you. Walalio.